Also for March 18th, we'll check out Seth's other post along these same lines, and it's entitled My Note to Senator Hollings. Lately, the entertainment mega companies appear to be having great success lobbying Congress in an effort to preserve their monopolies and their perceived right to continue minting money. As a creator of intellectual property who has self-published, I come at this issue from both sides. But I have been thinking and writing about this issue for years. See the reprint of my Inside article from 2 years ago, which is follows. The argument of the big media companies, as I understand it, goes like this. Copyright protection gives us the right to keep anyone, at any time, from making any copies of what we make. That means that if Apple Computer makes a device, the iPod, that can play music ripped from CDs, Apple is responsible for building unbeatable copy protection into the device to prevent consumers from stealing our music. It means that no device that copies DVDs should be permitted to be manufactured in or imported to the United States. And going one step further, it should be a violation of federal law to post a page of instructions that can teach a hacker to program his Linux box to enable him to watch a DVD he already owns. The logic presented to Congress by their lobbyists seemed to take two tacks. First, this is our property and copying it is stealing. Second, intellectual property, movies, music, books, etc., is a precious resource to our country, a profitable export in a way that the United States continues to influence the world. If widespread copying continues, we won't be able to make movies. We can't afford to make CDs. The already precarious publishing industry will die. I have to say that up front that I believe that both arguments are utter nonsense. First, copyright was never intended to protect the creator or distributor of intellectual property. Instead, it was designed to help consumers. Congress correctly saw that if there was a very limited in-time protection for literary works, people would be encouraged to create it. It worked. It seems as though everyone wants to be a screenwriter or a singer or an author. By limiting the time, they gave creators a small incentive, but still protected consumers from copyright monopolies. Over the last few years, those periods, thanks to the lobbying by the movie industry, have gotten longer and longer. They don't think they can live without them, and they feel quite threatened by wholesale digital copying. We can all agree that in the short run, consumers benefit from widespread access to a huge library of work. But what happens in the long run? Will the supply dry up as the media monopolies predict? Even with widespread and instant copying, there are countless ways for the creators of intellectual property to profit. Perhaps university won't be able to make money making $100 million movies, so what? You can't make money being a poet either. Hollywood's objections all center around a fundamental error. They believe that they have a right to business as usual. They believe that if the ground rules of the marketplace change, it's not fair. They somehow deserve the private planes and the wild parties and the significant profits. And they also seem to believe that if the money wasn't as good, the supply of ideas would dry up. Actually, what will dry up are the profits of the big entertainment companies. The supply is well assured. It's now easier and far cheaper to invent, create, produce a movie or CD or a book than it ever was before. You can record a 24-track CD in your basement. You can make the Blair Witch Project for a few $100,000. You can write, typeset, and distribute a book for free using a PDF file. But how can you make any money? Well, first off, I'm not sure that's a good question. Do you really believe that if every CD in the world was instantly put into a cosmic jukebox and the artist received no money at all, that there would be any shortage of music? Sure, Mick and the Stones might not be motivated to make another album, but the large number of unsigned, unpaid artists makes it pretty clear that supply is not threatened. In fact, though, you can make money. I gave Unleashing the Idea virus away for free on the net. More than 1 million people have downloaded it so far, and this approach actually made me more money. You can visit my Idea virus site for more details, but the short version is that I make money with souvenirs, with speeches, hardcover editions, foreign translations, etc. No, there's probably no money here for a traditional publisher to make a huge profit, but so what? If the purpose of copyright is to encourage creativity, who cares about the big publishers? Radio, after all, did not hurt the record business, even though they hated it at first. The record companies also tried to shut down MTV by charging for videos. Then they discovered what a powerful tool widespread distribution was. Let's take it a step farther. What if every DVD on the market was instantly copied? Well, movie producers would have several alternatives. They could, for example, make movies that work beautifully in theaters and never release them to DVD. They could make theaters more fun and more attractive to a larger audience. They could make fun movies that cost far less to produce, making enough profit on the people who want to buy the beautiful DVD packaging with etc's extra. They could start producing interactive entertainment, which would only work when the user was online and paying the studio directly. They could put commercials in movies, but allow people to pay a fee to go online and see the commercial-free versions while connected to a server. They could sell subscriptions, offering, say, an audience of 1 million people the very freshest movies before their neighbors for a fee. They could make all the profit from souvenirs, live events, clothing, etc., instead of the performance itself. Think Grateful Dead. Regardless of which path they follow, one thing is certain. The massive marketing and distribution network they build would become far less useful. What's wrong with that? I agree with Steve Jobs that there's a huge, huge opportunity here. If you know who is listening, watching, reading, and you have permission to market to them, there are countless ways to profit from that. Perhaps you don't make as much from a given hit, but that doesn't mean it should be forbidden by the government. At the heart of this issue is not fairness, nor is it economics. It's a simple idea by the entertainment giants to keep everything just the way it is. Federal Express couldn't stop email, and Fox shouldn't be permitted to cripple several industries just to support multi-million-dollar salaries. Ideas that spread are worth more than those that don't. Devices that spread ideas are both an important economic engine and a huge opportunity for both cultural and economic growth. But the most important message here is simple. Congress rarely succeeds when they use legislation to help an industry by forbidding changes. Let the market work. So there it is, in the fine print at the bottom of the CNET article about Yahoo's new privacy policy. If you know someone in Congress or the music movie business, please go ahead and forward this blog. I hope that people will start to see the huge opportunity this technology represents. At the very least, I hope they hear the other side of the argument. Note, when you're working on an idea, sometimes it seems like everyone else is too. After I wrote the first draft of this note, there were 3 at least great articles over the last week on this issue. Kelly in the New York Times Magazine, and Mossberg and Weber in the Wall Street Journal. I don't think any of them went far enough though. We're still stuck in the status quo, worrying about publishers and their business model, and not dialing back to the actual creators. I read that post without commentary because it so succinctly follows up on his points from almost 2 years ago. Both posts worked together in concert to point out the market changes that were underway at that time. And they've only expanded today, now 16 years later. Finally, we've got his post Opt-in Matters that was originally published on March 29th. It's an interesting side note that Seth is talking about Yahoo in March of 2002. This would be about a year after Yahoo's stock price had tanked following the Post.com bubble crash to just over $8 per share. It was down from $110 per share, which was its 2000 all-time high. It's painful to watch Yahoo trying to rebuild their company by copying the failed behaviors of older and larger media companies. At this point in history, it's the business equivalent of taking financial advice from broke people. Yahoo users will now automatically have their marketing preferences set to accept updates from a smattering of Yahoo's businesses. Previously, users were offered one option to either accept or reject product notices when first registering on the site. Users will have to go click No to opt out of receiving emails from a selection of 13 Yahoo products, ranging from job listings to new media products to inclusion in Yahoo's user surveys, among other things. The page also has an option for users to opt into Yahoo Delivers service, which send product pitches from third parties. I've fought this battle so many times. I'm a little weary of it, but hey, here it goes. Opt-out equals spam. Opt-out takes advantage of laziness, inertia, and info glut to inundate people with stuff they don't want. Opt-out is no way to build a great company. If you advertise, you should never buy opt-out ads. They don't work so well, and more important, you're just going to annoy people. I'm ashamed of this. Most online businesses have news and offers that people will willingly read. That's the path to go down. That's the way to build sustainable, profitable business. This is a mistake. It's too bad, really. To start today's recap, I'm going to replay a snippet from almost 2 years ago. I highlighted the paragraph in which Seth is discussing subscriptions. You'll notice that the one form of media I haven't talked about very much is magazines. Why's that? Because magazines already get it. They know that a magazine without subscribers is bankrupt. They know that newsstand sales are fine, but subscriptions pay the bills. Editors of magazines have a great time because they spend all of their time finding writers for their readers. Everyone else in media spends their time finding readers for their writers. It is no accident that media and entertainment companies have been furiously repackaging themselves as servicers of subscription customers as opposed to sellers of content. You need to look no further than WWE or its entire archive of matches from all the promotions it purchased. It launched a TV channel. Netflix started as a simple mail-order DVD service and is planning now this year to produce $8 billion in original content to satisfy demand from their subscribers. College football conferences have expanded from the windfalls that postseason bowls and championships produce to developing their own networks to deliver their contents to their consumers. On the flip side, ESPN, once able to demand a king's ransom per cable television subscriber, faces ever-tightening budgets and seemingly never-ending layoffs of staff and on-air talent as they encounter the painful backside of this change. ESPN was a provider of content. It was the cable companies who had the subscribers. Day by day, as each additional consumer abandons cable or dish networks, ESPN loses $8 per month. The bad news for interim ESPN president George Bodenheimer is those paywalls aren't going to solve it. You've got a tough job convincing viewers to become subscribers for content that they perceived for years that they were getting for free. Now, I included Opt-in Matters in today's video because it blends so perfectly with Seth's continued focus on permission as an asset. Before consumers become subscribers, they had to give you permission to build that relationship. The value you provide, often in advance of any return, is what attracts their attention and earns their permission. It should be treated as one of your most valuable business assets and at the foundation of your long-term plans. Well, this is it for episode 3. I want to say thanks for sticking around. I know today's episode is a little bit long. As I was reading it myself, I could, as the old guy, gold miners used to say, see a lot of colors. And I knew there were a bunch of nuggets for us to find. As all links to these posts, as well as any links to the posts they're included in the description down below. If you haven't already clicked the subscribe button, do it to your right and be sure to leave any comments for things that might have caught your attention. Again, I want to say thanks. Don't miss episode 4, which is coming up, and it'll include posts from April 2002. It's coming up next. Listen, I'm David, this is Reading Seth, and I will see you next time.